Everyone. Welcome to the March 3rd, 2026 Planning Board meeting. This meeting is fully remote, but if anyone would like to join along or ask questions, there is a link to log in on the agenda on the town website. First in our meeting, on the agenda is the public hearing for 1 Lyman Street, modification of a special permit for a warehouse. I think where we left off, Lori, were you going to meet with the applicant and the conservation agent?
Yes, so they had submitted a modification and I reviewed that and the conservation agent reviewed it. And they had addressed a number of comments, but there were still a few things outstanding. So I sent them my comment letter, which was dated February 23rd. And then they did another modification after that. And they sent me a waiver request letter. So I am now satisfied. So there were a few conditions of approval that the conservation agent requested, which are reflected in this decision. There were certain conditions that I had originally included before they did their final modification, which I have deleted from the decision because they satisfied those modifications that I was requesting. So I feel that the draft decision that I forwarded to you yesterday adequately addresses my comments and the conservation agent's comments.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything that they wanted to add?
Yes, good evening, Patrick McCarty Companies, Mike Don Francesco, the applicants here with me. Thank you all very much, and thank you to Laurie and Glenda and all the staff that's worked with us over the last couple weeks to go through the plans and comments and revisions. We did have the opportunity to review the draft decision conditions. The only one that I'm not gonna die on is the drop inlet structures versus a full catch basin. Because of the grading down at the driveway closest to Lyman Street, Vito has those as drop inlet structures, which is basically a 2-foot square interior size structure, concrete 3-sided structure that allows the frame and grate to sit directly on that. So it's not your typical deep sump catch basin that you would see that's, 4-foot diameter with a 4-foot sump below the pipe. To mitigate that, he has both of those routed through a storm scepter unit that provides the 90% TSS removal. So rather than removing it at the catch basin through the sump and the hood, he's removing that same total suspended solids, actually better, through the proprietary unit. So he submitted revised calcs to Glenda that shows that we actually exceed, we're about 90%, 96% TSS removal. But again, nothing that we would want to hold up tonight's meeting for. I think one way or the other, we're satisfied with the condition or the board accepting Vito's revised plan. Other than that, all the other conditions are great, and we're very pleased with how swiftly the board and town staff has worked with us on it. So thank you. And I apologize, I'm home alone and I have a very stubborn Aussie Doodle puppy that's trying to drive me nuts. So I'm going to mute myself unless I need to speak.
Sure.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions? Carter?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know there was kind of a little bit of chatter about it before the meeting, but just to make sure. So we're not going through the whole criteria for the special permit site plan stuff. We're just looking at the revision. That's all we're voting on.
Right, because this was already site plan approved. We don't have to go through all the criteria. We're just approving a modification.
Okay.
And I had asked Lori before just to make sure. Does anybody have anything they wanted to add or look at on the decision?
Um, I know, where was it? Oh yeah, that part D right at the bottom of this page. Does it matter if it says the building shall be heated with either natural gas or electricity if they have some kind of system that uses both?
I mean, we could add and or. What do you think, Lori?
Sure, I'd be happy to make that change.
Yeah, we'd have no objection to that.
So you'd have to strike out either.
Yep.
Does anyone else have any other comments? If not, I'm gonna see if there are any comments in the audience. I'm gonna stop sharing. Let's see. And these. Okay, I don't see any hands raised in the audience. Hearing none. Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved?
Second,
Roll call vote, Millie Milton,
Aye.
Carter Brannon,
I
Anthony Zaitin,
aye.
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Are there any other comments before we make a motion? Nope. Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the modification of planning board special permit for warehouse use and special permit with the site plan approval according to the decision that Lori has emailed out?
And if you
So
could
moved.
just make it subject to findings of fact 1 through 8 and conditions of approval A through E.
A through E.
Oh, A through G.
G. Subject to finding of facts 1 through 8 and A through G.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote, Millie Milton,
Aye.
Carter Brannon,
I
Anthony Zaitin,
aye.
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So congratulations.
Thank you very
You're all
much.
set. Good luck.
Very
Good luck,
excited.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, you
You
too.
Good night.
Right.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the continued public hearing for amendments to Town Code Chapters 2 and 7 and the Northborough zoning map. These are our bylaws for town meeting. There were a couple, Lori, that had to be updated that Carter had caught that they were missing. Have those been updated?
I don't remember Carter sending me an email. I may have missed that. So what I did is I made updates reflecting town council changes. But I'd be happy to incorporate any changes that Carter had wanted. Maybe Carter, you can explain them. And I just wanted to point out that I did ask the town administrator to attend the meeting per your request, and she is sitting in the audience.
Okay.
I think what Amy's talking about was from the previous meeting at the end when there was the talk about there was like the hotels and the was the
Oh.
cultural use ones that were on the bylaw but not on the slides.
Yes, yes, I did modify the presentation slides. I didn't prepare to discuss them tonight, although I can. I'm having trouble accessing the server tonight, so that's one of the issues. But what I can do is tomorrow morning I can email those to you. I know frequently you folks want to modify the slides that you're speaking to. So I figured I would just give you the updated presentation. And then when you guys decide which slides you want to speak to, you tell me the changes you want to make. And I'd be happy to make those changes.
Mhm.
Okay. Sure. Another item we had when we left off was, should we merge together some of the bylaws? And there are a few of us who definitely thought that the second one should not be merged. Maybe we should bring Stephanie in to the meeting. But I would think like ones could be merged, but if they're not like at all,
I agree.
they shouldn't be merged. Let's see. I could try to bring in Terry. Can you bring in Stephanie? I guess I can allow her to talk. Well, let's see if I can bring her in. I'll promote her to panelist. Here she goes. Okay, Stephanie, are you there?
I just promoted her.
All right. And she might not have any input just yet. Stephanie. I see her. Oh yeah, I see her. Okay.
She
All right,
declined.
well,
this
she has
time.
something to add, she can, but we'll start with the first one. The first one looks like it had the birth, and Lori, you had mentioned that both sections with birth were gonna be moved closer together.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if maybe Amy, if you can not share and I will share the one that has the red
Sure.
changes on it.
Does it
So
have the changes I sent today or the questions?
no, I did not see the, and when did you send that?
I sent you a couple emails earlier today, and I think we had a back and forth. It had to do with the data centers. It was
I
this morning.
I saw your question about whether I had reached out to CMRPC and Marlboro, but I didn't see that you had made any changes.
Oh, yeah, it was below that. It was on the same email.
Okay. Yeah, so I missed those. So if you could speak to those, maybe we can go through yours first and then move on to the other versions. So I can show you what I changed.
Sure. My concern was I forwarded it to Lori, is I found some articles about data centers. And I know we thought, oh, Iron Mountain's doing it, no big deal. But there are a lot of articles about, and Bob had mentioned at the last meeting, that there were people who asked for like 1 million gallons a day or something crazy. But in one of the articles too, said to mention, not only was it water intake, but it was water output. That a lot of these coolers, when they release the water, it's contaminated. So some of the newer data centers actually have water treatment centers where they treat the water before they release it. So I guess what I wanted to bring up is I thought we should have somewhere, just so we don't forget, say a data center comes in front of us, there are certain things we should look for. And I think a couple things that were mentioned in the articles are communities now are requiring data centers to offset or replenish water and to treat the wastewater before it's sent out. And also we might want to say that they would need public sewer. I don't know if we want the wastewater that's contaminated from the systems to go into the groundwater.
do you know what the elements of contamination are?
I could pull up the articles. It said there were a lot of metals.
Hmm,
Let me see if I still have
Okay.
them. And I can send out the email to everybody.
Would that be something that the Board of Health, if they were using a private septic, the Board of Health would get involved in? Because don't they
Maybe, but
manage those environments?
maybe, but I also think like the Board of Health probably isn't an expert yet on the data centers and nor are we. So
Or conservation?
I was just concerned going forward, like maybe we should have a definition go in, but maybe we do have a moratorium to the fall. I think other towns are doing it till they
Mm.
get ahead of it. Because I was thinking that our criteria here is like high level, but there's no, I don't know,
There's no quantifiers on that.
right? And in the email, Laura, I'd asked, I'm not sure if it goes in this. This is a criteria for the special permit, but
Mhm.
would there be a place when they're applying that states, we wanted to know of the articles that I had sent, Lori said, before you approve them, you should get a document that states how much water they're going to use, how much water are they expelling. And a lot of them now have to have specific controls where they test the water before it's expelled. There are a lot of things that, and all of them are agreeing to do it, like Google and AWS. But
Mhm.
if your town doesn't know and it doesn't ask for it, then you could leave yourself exposed. There were 3 articles that I read. And even though right now it's quiet over at Iron Mountain, I guess some of the bigger ones, the neighbors say it sounds like turbines and jet engines, some of
Mhm.
they. So I just wanted to make sure that, in the future, if we have one of these, we might forget, like, oh, what was that we were supposed to ask for or look for? I wanted to make sure it was in the bylaw, not just, and maybe there'll be someone like our engineer will be fluent in data centers and he'll know what to ask for.
And so you're saying that's not covered under the noise, vibration, and air quality?
I mean, it is, but I also think when they submit their application, we have to say we need a sound study beforehand,
Okay.
because we might forget those little things when
Right,
they're
right.
applying. We would
So-
like to, yeah. I don't know
so
where we would put that, Lori. Would that be in
On
what
the
they have to
application.
provide when they apply?
Yeah, yeah, it wouldn't really be appropriate to put it here. It
Mhm.
should be maybe above. Um, so maybe we should have a separate section that asks for additional submittal requirements.
Yeah,
Like in the rules and regulations
for data centers.
versus,
Well, it could even be here. Um,
and maybe we should leave this open until everybody can read the articles and you can read them, Lori.
Yeah,
And if we leave
definitely.
the public hearing open, we can just add the information at our next meeting.
plus we also are gonna have the public hearing on the open space
Mhm.
change at the next meeting. So
Mhm.
it's already gonna be on the agenda, so that
Okay.
would be a good time to discuss it.
So maybe you could scan the articles and send it out to the board, and then you could figure out where
Sure.
some of the submittals need to be in the bylaws.
Sure, if you can send me the articles, I'd be happy to do that, or tell me where I can find them.
They should be linked to that email I sent earlier. I had links on there
Okay.
to 3 articles. If they're not, I'll check after the meeting. So I'll stop sharing.
All right. Um, let me open up my red version. So there weren't a huge number of changes that were made. I did try to identify them in red text so that you would be able to see. But Stephanie, I know this first one and the one after this, the planning board was concerned because there are so many sections. So you can see, it's one article, but it has many different, so, number one, number two. And then Article 2 has 1, 2, but there are multiple changes made to the use chart that don't necessarily coincide with each other, which is the concern.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to see if Stephanie wants to come in at this point?
I think she is in, or she was. But I don't know where she is now. I did see her at one point, and Terry said she added her.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Amy, I don't see her at this time.
Okay, maybe she
Yeah,
got a call.
she's gone.
All right, well, moving along. So you folks at the last meeting wanted to change several distinct to multiple, so I made that change. Oops. And then on the next page, town council had suggested changing meetings to gatherings, which made sense. Then he also made the suggestion to eliminate and deleting because we're not deleting anything. Which is kind of a no-brainer. Under data center, I had added the language that we discussed at the last meeting. And then once again, simple wording changes that town council had suggested. Wanted me to include the word map. Or a combination thereof, that was his suggestion. I added, so this was the article that I forgot to add the last time we discussed it. So we're gonna have a separate public hearing on just this article. So I wanted to show you folks that I added it. And that was my understanding of the changes you wanted. So essentially, we're just deleting interior and then except for a driveway to gain access from the street. So we're adding ways to drives. So driveways. Any comments on that one? No. And then I made some some pretty significant changes to the fences and hedges bylaw. So once again, at the last meeting, I listened to the feedback that we received from the attendees. And then town council had made some suggestions about allowing the zoning board of appeals the authority to waive other aspects of the height limitation. So in order to make that make sense and kind of flow, I reorganized the bylaw. So things are in different order than they were previously. And I also added the word opaque. So when I was thinking about it, I was thinking if you have a picket fence or a chain link fence, the concern about visibility the limitation on the height isn't as significant as it is if it's an opaque fence. And I defined an opaque fence as a fence that provides less than 75% visibility. And then I provided some examples. So what this change would do is it would allow a taller fence. So if you want to do a 6-foot chain link fence, then you could do it, or a 5-foot or whatever. So you can have a taller fence within your front yard setback and within that corner area, as long as it's not opaque. So if it's chain link, if it's a picket fence, it can be taller. But if it's opaque, in other words, you can't see through it, then it has to adhere to that 3.5-foot height limitation. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And then I did also add this sentence that talks about what happens on slopes, just to clarify. So on slopes, the height would be the average of the high and low points of each fence section.
Hmm.
And then it kind of clarifies that. So I'm hoping that these changes make it easier to understand and that make it less arduous than what was originally proposed. Any thoughts?
Sure. Should it say with the 1 foot from the property line, just to make it clear what it's referring to be at least 1 foot? Because it should not be closer than 1 foot, to just clarify where you wanted it at least 1 foot as opposed
Yeah.
to exactly
you're right.
1 foot.
That makes sense. Oh, I lost it by accepting. Hold on. Let me get back there. I passed it.
After we're done, Stephanie is back
At
on the
least.
panel.
Okay. Any other changes to this section before we go back?
Just my other question, like what would a 75% visibility fence be? And is that enough? Like, would that be safe? Or like, I'm not sure what that looks like.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is, like, when you think of a picket fence, it's it's probably about 75%. So I was trying to think of the types of fences that exist.
Mhm.
So there needs to be some visibility. And then the building inspector would have some, because we still have this language, in the opinion of the building inspector.
I mean, I've seen some fences that are sort of slatted, so each slat is a little offset. So you can see through them at different angles, but you can't if you're looking straight on.
Yeah, so that would probably not meet the 25% visibility.
So you're
If
saying
you're looking at it straight on and you
straight
can't
on.
see through it at all,
Right.
then that probably wouldn't meet the threshold for visibility. So that would be considered an opaque fence.
And would you say that for that, that's for the whole fence in its entirety, or some sections may be that, some sections may be that?
So this is only concerning the height of the fence within the front yard setback.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have an opaque fence in the back And then in the front section, within the front yard setback, it's like a white picket fence, then they can be taller. So they can have a mishmash of fences. The 3.5 feet limitation only concerns the front yard setback and,
Okay,
you know, what's specified as the 25 feet from the corner.
okay.
Yeah, my only like kind of question is if you like set like defining what fences this would not apply to like that, instead of it more being case by case, like is it safe? Can you see it? Fine. If you say well, no, but this is, you know, 76% visibility, so you can't say no. I mean, that's kind of my, if the intent is to not block visibility from cars and stuff.
So, in other words, what you're saying, what you're saying is I should specify the types of fences that would be able to be taller? Is that what you're saying?
I think, yeah, I mean, that probably would work. I mean, I guess my other things, I'm just kind of, would it make that, does the changes to adding the opaque fence, would that make this make less sense than just not having it?
Well, we could just say all fences have to be no taller than 3.5 feet. That
Mhm.
definitely makes it simpler,
Mm,
Mhm.
yeah.
you know, for the building inspector. I was trying to, of course, based on the conversation at the last meeting, I was trying to apply, well, you know, if it's a chain link fence, you really do have good visibility around a chain
Right.
link fence.
Right.
Mhm.
You wouldn't if it has privacy slats in it. So I was trying to like be a bit more permissive for chain link fences. I mean, I suppose what we could say is they're the only ones that get relief. But then, of course, you're encouraging chain link fences. So I don't
Right.
know if that's what you want to do either.
No, I think this is, I like the wording on this one. I understand the concern. I had the same question about, well, what really qualifies as 75%
Mhm.
visibility? I think the intent is understood. Uh, just trying to figure out if there's some workaround that could be applied that may be a little bit less clear, but I think the intent is good.
And I can
I
see
mean,
the concern of like the person that called in, because if you did have a dog and
Mhm.
you needed a fence, then you can't deny that person.
I mean, could it just be like, I mean, because we have like in the opinion of the building inspector, I mean, can it just be if the building inspector says this kind of fence is okay, then it's okay? I mean, is that,
Mm.
or is that too?
I think that's basically what it says.
Mhm. I guess what I don't, I'm, it's the 75% visibility that kind of is my question, is if you're gonna have someone argue over like how much visibility this fence has versus uh just say, well, that you're just deferring to the building inspector as opposed to defining what is a opaque fence versus a fence you can see through.
So you want me to delete this section, but then say examples of of an opaque fence include a solid wood or vinyl fences, picket fences, or chain link fences with privacy slats? Is that what you want?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's a multitude of different types of fences out there that might qualify under this. but when you say examples include, those are pretty obvious. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with the 75%. I understand that the concern of the qualifier for it, but I think again the intent is if it turns out that this becomes a big problem, then yes, we should adapt it, but at the same time, I don't know that this will be as big of a problem.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the building inspector making the call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So then the only other change I made is this was a comment from Bob Federico. He pointed out that all of his applications are online. So he uses the building permit software. So of course I made that modification to reflect online applications. And then this is a change to language that town council had recommended. So I just put in exactly the words that he wanted.
So are you saying that they can only be submitted online, or can you paste and copy it and submit it in person?
I believe he requires everybody to submit online.
Okay.
And and then so originally we had a set fee schedule written into the bylaw. But then in order to modify the fees, I think this was something that Bob Federico had pointed out to me, then it would have to go to a town meeting vote. So right now, in order for the building department to modify fees, it goes to the selectmen. So the selectmen vote to change the fees. So instead of specifically putting the fee in there, I just pointed to the building permit fee schedule. So the fee will be listed there. And then when the building department changes their fees at some point in the future, they won't have to change the bylaw, go to town meeting to change the bylaw. They just go to the selectmen to change the fee.
That makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
And that's it. Those are the only changes I have.
Okay. Stephanie is
So
back. Yeah. So if you wanna,
I'll go back to the first couple of articles. So Stephanie?
Hi, I'm sorry. My cat sat on my computer and disconnected me. I don't know how that happened. And I didn't even know she got me off Wi-Fi. So I'm like thinking we all had a connection problem, but
Is that like the dog ate my homework?
exactly. Yes. That's funny.
So Stephanie, these first couple of articles, let me just give you a little bit of background information about what I did. So the planning board wanted to make changes, a number of different changes. So what I did is I grouped the changes together that I thought kind of made sense. So like the first aspect of this, they're adding a new definition for birth, and then they are further down. And I remember you folks last time asked me to move this up, so I will still make that change. So under C, they are changing loading docks to berths.
Okay.
But then there are some other changes that the planning board wanted to make to off-street parking and loading. And because we were in that section of the zoning bylaw with this change to berths, I grouped it in with this article. But really, this change has to do with ADA compliant parking and where it has to be in instances where parking is allowed off-site for use. So our zoning bylaw allows off-site parking. So say you're 4 West Main Street, as you know, 4 West Main Street doesn't have any parking. So the parking is within the municipal parking lot. So that's a perfect example of how our bylaw allows buildings to count parking that aren't on the same parcel.
Yeah.
But what this bylaw change says is that they must provide the ADA compliant parking that is required by law within 100 feet of their facility. So even though the parking could be 500 feet from the facility, the handicap parking has to be within 100 feet of the facility. So it doesn't really relate to the definition of birth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the concern. And then up here under further up under B, we have a clarification of the parking requirement for mixed use buildings that are over 5,000 square feet in area, which also has nothing to do with valet parking and has nothing to do with bursts. So when I was doing the presentation at the last meeting, the planning board was concerned that we were lumping all of these things together that don't really belong together.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I just said in order to make it more, you could combine or streamline if it made sense. But, I'm thinking of course, a shorter town meeting than 4 days and to keep people engaged if we could, whatever made sense. So if some articles together work, great. If they don't, then, I mean, what are you going to do? We don't want to confuse people either, but,
Right, and what we had discussed is people might think if we merge unlike items, they'll think we're sneaking something in,
yeah,
you know? We didn't
Or the
want,
whole
Right.
thing, the whole thing may not pass because one little piece of it they don't want, but the rest of it is fine. And so then that becomes a
They-
whole other issue.
yeah,
yeah, then they all fail.
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. Absolutely. Yeah, so if there's something that works, keep it. If not, no, I was just saying, whatever we can condense, and I have to talk to the moderator again about a consent agenda and what makes sense to, um, you know, kind of stockpile together. Like the first beginning part of town meeting usually is fine. But then once we get into the budget, we'll of course separate it between capital and whatnot. But it would be good to condense some things because we have a lot of articles this year.
I saw White Cliffs might be on it. Will they go first or last?
Yeah. So we're gonna do the normal beginning entries, like the more administrative. But before we get to the budget, we'll do White Cliffs. And I asked town council today if I could put all of the White Cliff articles together, because if one doesn't pass, then the whole thing doesn't work, like if the zoning didn't pass. So, and she said that's fine as long as the moderator is good with it, which I think he will be. Yeah.
Okay, so one of ours will move up. The hospitality overlay.
Oh, correct. Yes. Yep.
Yep. All right. Now, Lori, since Assembly Hall is part of White Cliffs, should that move up too?
Yeah, here's the other one that's complicated. So Article 2, because the planning board decided that they want to allow assembly halls in other districts too, because it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So now we took away from the hospitality overlay the definition of assembly hall. So now the assembly hall definition will be in the section of the zoning bylaw that defines all of the uses for all of the districts.
Okay.
So you can see the definition as part of this article. And then it kind of gets confusing because while we were at it, we decided, hey, we should allow home occupations in other zones that currently don't allow them. So that's what you see up above, and then you see assembly hall. And now assembly halls are going to be allowed in all of these districts where they currently are not allowed. And then because cultural uses are so similar to assembly halls, the planning board decided, hey, we should allow assembly halls in the business south and the industrial district. And then while we were at that, we also started thinking about hotels, motels, and conference centers and how we should allow those in business east. So you can see, even though it's a nice, neat little article, we're doing a lot of different things in this article. So the
Yeah.
concern was, well, maybe people will be all set with the home occupations and the assembly halls and the cultural use, but then they have a problem with allowing hotels, motels, and conference centers in Business East. And then you just lost everything.
Right.
So I'm wondering for White Cliffs, we just do the assembly hall and the table and then do all the rest of it later. You know, because you hate to confuse the White Cliffs issue.
Right.
I
Well,
would just do,
I could do that. So what I could do is I could group assembly hall. I could do the use table for assembly hall, and then I could do the hospitality
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
well, could you repeat that?
So what I could do is I could take the assembly hall definition. So still, so it would still be kind of similar in that I'm doing a number one, amend to include assembly hall definition. I'm doing a number two, amending the table of uses to allow assembly hall in these districts.
Right.
And then I go into the hospitality article
Yep, that makes
and I'm
sense.
amending the map, I'm adding the overlay, and then I'm adding the zoning for the hospitality overlay district.
Yeah,
Because
and
you
then
see
we,
assembly hall is here.
and
as
then
an
we'll just
allowed
have to
use.
do 1 and 2 later for all the other uses. And the table again.
Yeah.
Yep, I think so, because you don't want to confuse people with White Cliffs by adding in all the other things.
Right.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I like that.
I kind of think the assembly hall should not be lumped in with the White Cliffs. I mean, I get that because we need the definition, unless you added the definition back into the overlay. But I just think I think because you have, well, because I know we were wanting to lump the cultural use with the assembly hall, and you're making these use table stuff that I think now you're adding more stuff to the White Cliffs that's not what I think you want to just get the White Cliffs through in the one vote and not have people confused with the zoning.
Well, we weren't gonna add the cultural use or the conference centers in under White Cliffs, just the assembly.
Yeah.
So you'd
'Cause
have a little, you only need that one line of table.
Yeah, there
Yep.
are already, cultural use is already in existence in that district.
So what I could do, I think what they're saying is I'd still leave all these other ones in an article, but
Mhm.
I'd pull out Assembly Hall from this article.
Right,
So everything else would still be in there.
yep,
So if it failed, okay, it failed, but we still get the Assembly Hall with the White Cliffs.
Mhm.
mhm,
Am I understanding that right? That's what the consensus is.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think that's confusing, Carter? I get that.
A little bit.
It's too late to put assembly hall in the definition of the hospitality, right?
No, because it's still advertised. So we already held a public hearing on that.
Right.
So this is just shifting the location around
So I think
within
what
the
Stephanie
article.
is saying, add assembly definition, assembly hall back into the overlay, and then we have it twice. It's redundant, but it doesn't really matter. So the overlay, put the assembly hall back in with the definition, and then we can still talk about it later in our bylaws for zoning.
That's probably the most clear way to do it.
So you don't want to go forward with allowing Assembly Hall in the other zoning districts at this town meeting? Is that what you're saying?
No, we
No.
would, but we would do it later on, like, I think allowing assembly halls in the overlay. And then we just do our other bylaw later in the night. That allows the
Yeah.
assembly hall in different places.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just, I think
I like
Stephanie
that
said
better.
it won't be as confusing.
Yeah, I don't think it will be because if you take something that's good for every, other area, it would get confusing. But if we already embed it into the definition of hospitality, then, it's specifically for White Cliff Zone. And it would have been, assembly halls would have been allowed for that zone regardless, but at least it won't be as confusing.
Actually, it wouldn't, because didn't we make it a special permit for the business east?
Hmm.
Business East.
But I think this overlay has by right and by special permit.
Yeah.
So we had, yes, we have it special permit in Business East. And in the hospitality district, we have it as by right.
where's that one?
So the permitted uses are the by right uses.
Yeah.
So it's letter F. The special permit uses are under 2.
And the reason why we did that is because it was allowed at White Cliffs, but if there were other places in Business East, they may not be appropriate up against
Mhm.
residents.
So then I think that makes even more sense to put assembly within the definition of hospitality because it's by right and it's part of the uses.
So would you just have to add the definition, Lori, to this hospitality overlay?
Sure. Oh, we had it in the version that we did
Mhm.
the public hearing on in the fall. So I can just add it back in.
Okay. That makes sense. And then we'll have it again in the regular definition section.
Yeah, it'll
And
look a
then,
little weird, but that's okay.
I think, I bet some of the overlays already do that, you know?
I actually had a question about the assembly hall definition. If you can scroll back up to it. Because I know, I mean, I guess because it's, again, like as we were talking about before, how like there's a lot of overlap and it's unclear of the assembly hall, the nonprofit club and membership, and the cultural use, how a lot of those are overlapping, but they're different. Do At least I think it might make sense to, in the definition, clarify that what makes it an assembly hall as opposed to one of the others is that it's for a for-profit business. So that way you're not creating with the nonprofit club or membership or the cultural use, which have to be nonprofits. You're not, because the assembly hall is not allowed in the residential districts, whereas the other ones are, you would not now be changing what is currently allowed to be not allowed.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily agree with that, because if you think of a VFW,
Mm,
a VFW could have an assembly hall, but that's a nonprofit. Or a Knights of Columbus.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I think there are some for-profit businesses that do have, things for training purposes or for things like that. That if they're holding a class there, would that be considered, if it's for profit and you said, well, you can't do it because you're in a, you know,
I don't think we should specify for profit or nonprofit. Like, for
right,
example, if it's a party space that uh, like of course White Cliffs, or like the barn at Gibbet Hill Grill where they hold weddings. So that's a for-profit, but you may have nonprofits that are using the space for their purposes, for a fundraiser, for example.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it's not the event that's the nonprofit, it's the hall itself. Um, so again, because you can rent out the historical society, you're basically using it as an assembly hall, but it's defined as a cultural use because it's also a museum.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can think of lots of examples of both, like the Asa Waters Mansion,
yeah,
which is owned by the town of Millbury. There is a museum on the second floor, but the space itself is an assembly hall. So the primary use is assembly hall, and then they have a restaurant space within it. And that's, of course, a town, which is a nonprofit.
I mean, my point though is because where it's allowed is not identical for all of these different things, and so it leads to a lot of, at least I think it's confusing of, again, like the historical society, is that a cultural use or an assembly hall if that goes through, um, because it's used as both, and that's in a residential district, which we decided we did not want the assembly halls allowed in. Um, I think it's, unless you were keeping all like the use table identical for all of those, then I think you should basically specify something that is a cultural use or is a nonprofit club or membership is not restricted by the new assembly hall definition.
I don't know.
Basically,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Millie.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure that that is a big enough criteria to say that it should be nonprofit. Because that's really limiting a lot of the possibilities in places that, yeah.
well, I'm not sure where would it be limiting.
Well, if the assembly hall has to be nonprofit, that,
No,
oh,
I'm saying that the assembly hall has to be for profit, because anything that's nonprofit would fall under cultural use or nonprofit club or membership organization.
I don't,
So
I don't think,
basically,
yeah, I
to,
don't
to
know that
say
the-
basically, because what I'm concerned with is that because we're defining assembly hall, a
Mm,
lot of things that are currently doing the thing that we're saying an assembly hall is are allowed because they're a museum or a nonprofit that that are allowed in like residential areas that the assembly hall is not. So I'm kind of wondering if we change the assembly hall definition in a way that's not making that's not making it more restrictive on those kinds of nonprofit groups, that you're clarifying you're trying to use this to expand what's allowed, not restrict.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, are there areas on this use table that you think it just shouldn't be allowed if it's not changed definition wise by that?
If we're not going to change the definition, then I think we should allow it by a special permit in all of the residential districts to be consistent with cultural use and nonprofit club or membership.
But if you look at cultural use, it's allowed by right in many
Right,
districts, so you would make it more arduous than you
Right.
would cultural uses.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, in the residential district. So we're only looking at the commercial and industrial, but the cultural use is also allowed in the residential districts that the assembly hall would not, if we're not, because if it's not listed,
It's not
at
allowed.
least, yeah. So unless, like basically, unless we wanted to add it into the residential as well with the special permit, although I know there was some pushback to that earlier.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that.
I think that will have its own pushback, yeah.
Right.
I think maybe what we do is we go forward with this, and then Carter, next year after we get some idea of, what might be uses for assembly hall, then we can look at the residential areas. Right? I think the intent here is just to get it into the zoning table somewhere.
Mhm.
Right? And so we limit where we're putting it in the zoning table, and then sort of like the data centers as well, right? We can
Yeah.
limit where we put it in the use table first and then expand later.
And I think assembly halls are assembly halls. They're not, residential is supposed to be a home. Like, I don't think people want commercial uses popping up in their neighborhoods.
Right,
But
I agree.
again, and I, if the rest of the board disagrees with me on this, but like the historical society is in a residential district. And it's allowed there as a culture. I mean, it's probably grandfathered in anyways, but it's, if you were to close and reopen it after 3 years or whatever, it's allowed there as a cultural use by a special permit. But if you are defining the assembly hall, would they not be allowed to have gatherings for civic, educational, or political purposes there because assembly halls are not allowed there?
Well, yeah, I mean, whether it's in that residential district now may not have been when it effectively started, so we don't know that part, but I see what you're saying is that if it weren't being used, would it have to either be not allowed to reopen as such or come back as it'd be allowed as a cultural use? It still would, but not an assembly hall.
I I think, I mean, I would like the assembly hall changes as a separate article because I'm probably going to vote no on it.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I move to go forward with it as is, and if we need to discuss it further, then bring that up again.
Okay, how's the rest of the board feel? I agree with that.
I think we should move forward with it as is.
Mm-hmm.
Read.
Okay. All right. All right, so is there anything else we had to discuss?
Just a point of clarification, when you're saying leave it as is, are you saying that I should leave all these uses in a single article?
Oh, no,
No.
I liked the things that we talked about up until the point of the definition and discussion of the assembly hall itself.
So am I putting Assembly Hall as a separate article?
I think so.
Okay, so I'm grouping home occupation, cultural use, and hotel, motel, and conference center together. But I'm putting Assembly Hall as a separate article.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should separate. Well, I think cultural use and assembly hall, I'm fine with those together. I think the hotel, so all the home occupations should go together. The hotel should be its own separate one, and the drive-through chain should be its own separate one.
Yeah, I agree, because those are the ones that people could have heartache with.
Yep.
And if nobody has heartache, they'll be quick.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
You never know which one it is.
It's true. It's always the one that you're like, oh, that's gonna be quick, and there's so much conversation about it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so are we all set with the zoning for tonight?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So if Stephanie, if you want to leave, you can stick around. It's up to you. But
Thank you,
next up,
Stephanie.
thanks.
Bye, guys. And excellent job. Everything's so detailed. So I can't believe you have it in your capacity to go through every single step. So kudos to you all. You do such a good job.
Thank you. You too.
Can I ask a quick question and I want to circle back on this about when shipping containers kind of got dropped off the radar? I feel like I missed that as an interest to bring up. I'm not saying bring it up now, but I don't remember it being discussed that we weren't gonna act on them.
We were
Is that-
waiting for feedback. Every now and then, like Bob said, he'd get back to us and stuff like that. We just never got the feedback before the meeting. But I think maybe in the future, if we don't get the feedback, then we just move forward, like how we do an application
Right.
and the police chief doesn't always get back to us. So maybe we should we should have moved forward.
And that would be maybe my thought for another time to approach it that way. Say, just we're not getting, somebody doesn't have time or they're not quite catching the urgency that we have. Just move forward.
Mhm.
And maybe we can put on, the fall town meeting or something like that.
Yeah,
I'd like to
Yep.
do that.
yep. And I also found a thing that won't catch previous storage containers, but when we look under 7.09020 section C, letter D, it says exposed storage areas, machinery, garbage dumpsters, service areas, truck loading, utility buildings and structures shall be screened from view of the abutting properties and streets using plantings, fences, and other methods approved by the site plan approval authority. We always talk about garbage dumpsters being screened, but we
Right.
should put this whole section in. Like, I don't know why it's always been focused on just the dumpsters. It should be everything listed. And you could even add the word storage containers, but Bob's calling them structures. So it even says structures here.
Right, and that's the thing is that I feel like that's, I feel like we kind of have something, but it's really not been addressed.
Right. It kind of falls through the cracks. In like this whole section C, it says that in any district, these shall apply. And in the past,
Yeah.
you know, I had mixed information, like anything after 2009 had to do this, or they don't have to do it unless we put it as a condition. So I did talk to a lawyer about it quickly before this meeting, and we'll just have to figure out how to do that going forward. I want to
Okay.
read this whole section, and maybe there are certain conditions we have to keep adding.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a template.
I just wanted to kind of like close that gap of going forward with future articles. If if we're not getting some of the responses that we might, or answers we might be looking for, just keep moving on it rather than not go forward.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I should have pushed harder. I guess I kind of thought, you know, we'd get the answers.
And I'm
But
sorry, part of that is my fault. I felt like I had to do research in order to adequately review
Mm,
that bylaw that Amy came up with. And I just didn't have the time to do the research prior to that, having to schedule that public hearing.
yeah, and then and again, that's fair enough. And part of that is that look, I'd like to look into this more, and maybe we can put it on for the next. It's worth looking into, or just not, not saying, well, we didn't get any feedback, so we can't do anything. Yeah.
and you know what I was thinking, Lori might answer your question. I was thinking about the bylaw. And it does say that it's temporary for people moving or under construction, but it does say in the bylaw that I passed forward that if somebody wants to do it as a permanent fixture, they can do it through site plan.
Yep.
I think that's what it says. So if some people want to use them as she sheds or permanent structures, there's a method where they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go back and look at it. Maybe there will be enough things that we can put on the fall.
Yeah.
And then we'll start doing zoning in the fall. We'll see how long this town meeting is. We really have never had a 4-nighter. I think we had a 3-nighter once, but usually it's 2.
I
I
think
don't
we had
know
a 3-nighter the year before.
I don't know if we've ever had one. You know,
Mm,
just the school budget alone is pretty long to talk about.
yeah.
I think this year's gonna go long because not only do you have the school budget, we're gonna have White Cliffs, and I think
Yep.
that's gonna take a lot of discussion.
Yep.
So this could be a 3-nighter, but it's not our fault. We're at the end.
I know. We have very little to do with that most of the time.
Right.
Oh,
Okay. So next on the agenda are A&Rs, lot releases, bonds. Any of those, Lori?
None, although I did finally get the agreement that I had been waiting for the Ignatius Common Drive. Do you remember you guys approved that about a month ago?
mhm.
And then I was waiting to get the signed agreement from the applicant, and he finally dropped that off yesterday. So unfortunately, I need 3 of you to come in to sign it. It will ultimately have to be given to the treasurer's office. So if 3 of you could come in this week, and Amy, I am gonna need your signature on the Lyman Street, so maybe I can get you to do a twofer. Oh, and also Mike Levitt would like the decision that was originally approved in 2014. So Teresa was the chair at that time, so she signed that decision. But of course, now she's no longer on the board. But I believe you were on the board at the time, weren't you?
I was.
So I'm going to ask you to sign that decision from 2014. So then he can record that, because I don't feel comfortable having her sign it now, because she's not on the board. So, so if you could come in and sign those 3 documents, that'd be great.
All right, if I don't show up, just remind me.
I'll harass you.
Shoot me a text, because I have a long drive.
Oh, okay, yeah,
It won't be tomorrow morning with the snow.
quite all right.
Okay, so next on the agenda are the minutes of February 17th, 2026. I saw Carter had some amendments. I'm fine with the amendments. Does
Mhm.
anybody else have any amendments?
No,
No, okay. Are you all set, Carter? Too? Okay, all right, so hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 17th, 2026 as amended?
Approved.
so moved. Second,
Okay, Bill Pierce,
aye.
Carter Brannon,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
I,
and I'm an aye, so the minutes are approved. Next on the agenda, is subcommittee updates. I can announce mine first, is design review finished updating the design guidelines. So Lori's gonna pull them all together with the pictures, and we're gonna proof them probably one last time. And then the design guidelines do go to the planning board to read them and approve them. And then the master plan implementation committee met, and there was a letter discussed and approved about economic development, and that's gonna be sent to the select board.
Mhm.
Those are the only updates I have.
I have a quick one for our CPC. I think I told you about the applications that we already had. We haven't done the voting yet on them, but we did have a pre-application discussion on the B-Walt Trail, where they might be submitting a feasibility study for us to continue 1.3 miles from where Westboro would be ending their section of it, and we would continue through parts of Northborough onto it would be Nursery Drive going towards Shrewsbury. Yeah. So
And
it's
I
a
did submit that.
Feasibility. Yep.
I did submit that on February 2nd.
whew, okay. That must have been close.
Yeah, it was, I think I submitted it with an hour to spare.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it was pretty close, yeah. I think
All
that
right.
was one of the closest I've had in a while.
Yeah. So
And you
we'll be looking at that on Thursday. And we've had
And
two.
Lori, you sent us another letter, and that kind of is along the same.
I did. So, I was contacted by the planning department in Westboro. So they had been talking with CMRPC about, and, Walk Mass
Mhm.
about doing a regional walk audit training. So she reached out to a few abutting communities to see if there was any interest in having this class. So the class costs about $5,000, so it's kind of a pretty penny.
Mm.
But AARP has this community challenge grant. So Westboro wanted to submit the grant application on our behalf of those communities that are interested in the training. So if we get the training, then we won't have to pay for the class. We'll just benefit from it. So I was thinking that certainly I would like to attend the class. I was thinking that maybe a couple of you folks might be interested, and a couple of the folks on the roadway advisory committee. I'm getting
Traffic
that name
safety.
wrong.
Traffic safety.
Traffic
Traffic
Safety
safety.
Committee. Thank you. Thank you. I knew I was getting that wrong. And one of the benefits, of course, when I do site visits, I'm always looking at the adequacy of the roadway and the sidewalks that provide access to the development project. But with this training, I would know better what to look for. And I
Interesting.
was thinking the same, it would benefit you folks when you're reviewing applications to know what to look for as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's a separate thing. That has not to do with this B Walt Trail or CPC.
No,
No.
Okay.
it's they've been working with Central Mass
Okay.
to get the training.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is separate. So I just included, I wanted to show that Northborough is serious about making improvements, transportation improvements. So I just listed some examples in the letter.
Okay.
Do you need us to take a vote?
Yeah, if you could.
Does anyone else have any comments on the letter?
Do
I mean,
not.
You're
My
just reading
only-
it, Carter?
Oh, yeah, well, my only question was because at the bottom, would it look better if all of our names are listed, that there's more interest, or
I can certainly add all of your names.
if
Yeah, and that's
everyone
fine.
agrees to it? That's my question.
If we all
Yeah.
vote yes.
Yes.
Yep, I can
Sounds
add
good.
all your names.
Sounds good. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the walk audit support letter?
So
So
moved.
Moved.
Second.
Abby must just guess, right? All right, all in favor, Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Carter Brennan,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any updates for their committee?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Hearing none. The next planning board meeting is March 17th and April 7th. Lori, do we have any applications?
On the 17th, you will be reviewing the application for 10 and 20 Barefoot Road
Mm-hmm.
and also holding the public hearing on that open space amendment to the zoning.
All right, that sounds good. I was gonna say if we get through that, maybe we don't have to meet April 7th. But we probably won't meet mid-April, right? If we meet on the 17th and then April 7th, if there's no applications, we could probably skip the meeting before town meeting.
Mm.
I guess I'm looking ahead.
Mhm.
I guess we'll see what comes up. There's a ZBA meeting, March 24th. Do they have any applications?
I just received an application today.
Is it a big one or small?
Nope, it's just a use that wants to occupy, I think it's 89 West Main Street. So the two yellow buildings.
Yep.
So gosh, what is the use? I'm losing my mind.
So it's not really 89. I think 89 West Main are the blue
Oh,
apartment
it's an
buildings.
adult daycare.
Hmm.
So this
So
is-
for folks like seniors, folks who might have dementia or just can't be left alone. They can go there and be cared for during the day.
Okay.
So is it 89 West Main or is it the yellow buildings? 89 West Main, I think, is blue. Or gray.
It's in one of the yellow buildings. I might have the address wrong.
Oh, okay. I know the 89 West Main is the one, Bob. There was no occupancy permit for the bottom floor.
It is not that building.
Okay. Right. Master Plan Implementation Committee meets again April 16th. All right. Does anybody have anything else to add?
I
All right.
had,
Oh, Carter. Yep.
I mean, this is just, I mean, where this would not be something that would come up for a while, but I've been paying attention to the Board of Health's chicken regulations. And I was talking to some people and reading up on, I mean, it's they've been ruffling some feathers for sure. But but I noticed there's a lot of kind of tension and disagreement and suspicion with some residents over it. And I was kind of looking into seeing if like a agricultural commission or something could potentially improve relationships between the farming community and livestock and the different boards in town. It was something I'm looking into, seeing if people are interested. I think the planning board, if we're ever making zoning regulations or projects that could have something to do with agriculture, we might benefit from the advice of something like that. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts on that or if that's something people like or don't like. I've been kind of asking around and seeing if people are interested.
I'm just glad the chickens went to them. When I first started on the board in like 2014, the chickens came to us.
Mm-mm.
But and people
Mhm.
did want to be a farming community. But we were warned against doing that just because
Mhm.
what was happening on Whitney Street.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I think about agricultural commission. What would that do?
Um, well, it's, I mean, different towns have them do different things. Some of them, I mean, like some of them, it's more of just a they would advise or make recommendations on like if the Board of Health was making regulations, they might offer a recommendation on it. Some towns, there's like the right to farm bylaw, and usually the Agricultural Commission would be the ones to be drafting and presenting that to town meeting. Some of them like produce educational materials and stuff. Like there are like how to raise chickens in your backyard and not piss off your neighbors from a town's agricultural commission. So different towns would do it differently. I think it kind of like my understanding is you would kind of get a group together if there's interest, and then you'd make a bylaw that kind of spells out what they would do, what they wouldn't do. There's some state laws of what they can do as well, and then town meeting would approve the creation of it.
I mean, don't we have something that is in effect, some oversight for whether it's livestock or fowl or beekeeping, any of those that has or regulating the numbers in which they can occur in certain areas. If I wanted to open up if I wanted to have 12 dogs, I would have some regulations that would be put in place. So don't we have something with that with chickens? Or
I
no?
think that's the problem right now.
Yeah, with the number.
I think it's like I know because we have. I mean, the dogs. I think there's like the dog licenses and stuff.
It's
Um,
also a kennel.
It's
So
a kennel.
anything over 4 dogs, or I think it's 4 or more dogs is considered a kennel, and that requires a special permit from the ZBA.
Right. So if you have, X amount of chickens or,
I
maybe
think
That's
that
what they're
cats.
trying to do with
I
the
think it maybe
chickens.
should go to cats too, like a cattery. We've seen a few, oh,
We used to have
I
some
think the
piggeries.
Board of Health is trying
yeah,
to come up with a regulation for chickens.
right. So maybe that's, but you know, I'm always concerned when we're adding another level of oversight onto something that could be managed by, that a change in words that may cover it by another department or agency. I see where you're coming from on that, Carter, but I always get concerned adding another level of oversight that probably wouldn't be as effective.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine at work who always makes the comment about something that Ronald Reagan said. He said, you know, we're from the government and we're here to help. Right? No one ever likes to hear that. So, you know, and I work for the government, so you know, I get it, right? But you do have to be careful about how many levels of oversight there are in some of this stuff. I will say though that I'm not necessarily opposed to the agricultural idea only because we have places like Barbarian, Davidians, right? All of the farms that are around town already.
Mhm.
You know, so you know, I'm not necessarily against that idea. I know when we went through the traffic safety one, it took like a year and a half of a feasibility study to go through that. I would like to see that happen to see if this is really something that the town needs and wants, because there is cost to it.
Mm.
I know either Mr. Tugas or Mr. Davidian, I think it was Tugas, was on the agricultural commission for like the state or the federal level.
At the
So
federal
he was
level.
already involved. And I'm not sure if they would join an agricultural commission only because they're so busy. Like they can't
They're
even,
not.
they came to the first couple farmers markets and they can't even do that because they're just so busy.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the agricultural commission would even have a rep from the farms, but maybe they would. Okay, but it's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a good example and a good possibility, which is great. Thank you.
Okay, so our next meeting is March 17th. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Carter Brannon,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. See you guys.
See you,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.